hard to capture. Extravagant, resurrect the track and it's militant. And I react like a convict and start killing. It's manifesting. The gods work like appliances, dealing in my psyche.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explained here, bringing you guys another discussion for Boruto Chapter 47. And to the anime only fans, I gotta say, this is the time of the month where a lot of the content that I'm gonna be covering is gonna be manga related, so there are gonna be spoilers. I thank you for your support. Over 80% of the channel, yes, still 80% of the channel is spoiler free, so I thank you guys for all of your support. But with all that being said, if you're still here, I'm gonna assume you're okay with me talking about spoilers. So I wanted to just take this moment to further go into something I talked about last month, that this last manga chapter has now confirmed. And I gotta say, I told you guys, like, you need to pay attention to the Isshin Boshi mythology when it comes to Isshiki, but after seeing the design and how Isshiki, his eye, the way that it's formed, it has ties to Buddhism. And so Isshiki has a completely different ability that Naruto and Sasuke are completely unaware of, and yet it's been hiding in plain sight this entire time. So essentially, Isshiki has the ability to grant wishes. Now I know somebody's like, what? And I'm gonna tell you, like, for a long time I said I can buy into the one-inch man. I can buy into that, especially because he's shrinking. Sure, I see that right away. When you look at how he could potentially have a relationship with Kage based on the mythology, sure, I bought into that. But I said wish granting, there's no way in hell that that's the direction they're gonna take. However, I'm telling you right now, this guy can grant wishes, and it's been in our faces the entire time, whether it be him telling Amado that he's gonna grant all the wishes of the member of Car. There are a few other examples where it really looks like that's what we've been getting. I know somebody's gonna say in the comment section, like, hey, if this guy has such an overpowered ability where he can create wishes and he can grant wishes and everything, then why doesn't he just wish for a new chakra tree? Why doesn't he just wish for a new chakra fruit? And so you have to look at it from this perspective, okay? There are limitations, okay? If you look at the Isshin Boshi mythology and everything that's connected to it, and everything is connected with all the various myths that are tied up with Isshiki, there are limitations to what he can do with this wish granting mallet ability that he has. So essentially, when you look at the mallet, okay, it had the ability where it's able to grant wishes and desires, but it was something that can't be overused, so you can't spam it. If you spam using this ability, you're gonna make it run out, okay? So that's the first thing you have to look at. The second thing you have to look at is that it can only be used to a certain level. You have to have an equal exchange for it. Think back to Full Metal Alchemist, where you had equivalent exchange. You couldn't just produce, like, say, some universal level thing if you didn't have the right thing to exchange for it. So it's the similar principle here. That's why Isshiki can't just sit there and create a chakra tree and the chakra fruit, because the cost is going to be too high, because that chakra fruit is going to take a bunch of lives in order to be able to create, because it has to take all the chakra from those people. So that's part of the reason right there. That's part of the reason why those wishes can't actually be granted. That's why, you know, in a video I got coming up later on with Kawaki, I mean, what we're seeing in this point is that Isshiki is preying on the desperation of the human heart by offering to grant wishes that aren't going to cost a lot when it comes to equivalent exchange. It's actually pretty brilliant when you think about it, because it makes him more of a more sinister and methodical villain, while also making the members of Car seem to be a bit more sympathetic. And also, this overpowered ability, it comes with a cost, it comes with a weakness. So I think that that's something that we have to take into consideration here. Now you're like, what about this chapter made you even assume that there's something about the ability to grant wishes? So the first thing you have to look at, right, the first thing you have to look at is the fact that in this chapter we saw something that very strongly resembled the 8-spoke Dharma wheel that you had that was in Boruto chapter 44, and now it pops up again in this chapter. And when you look at Ishiki's eye, there's some semblance to that. So that's one of the things right there. You start seeing some of those Buddhist references, and then when you look at some of the information that you get when you look at Ishiki's design, when we first saw his transformed state, one of the things that we saw was the fact that on the back, if you look at the back of his cloak, he has what appears to be a hammer. And now when you see his fully transformed body, you see the hammer on the side of his chest, basically in the center part. And the reason why that's so huge is Isshin Boshi literally had a hammer in that myth where it gave him the ability to grant wishes. Now, and as one more thing for why you should really consider this to be a very strong possibility is, I keep telling you guys, hey, if you really want to get an idea for what Masashi Kishimoto and Kodachi were going for the complete Boruto movie story, you really need to look at the novelization that Kodachi wrote for the Boruto movie. In the movie, Momoshiki and Kinshiki were referred to as ogres multiple times over. When you look at Momoshiki's fuse design that Kishimoto did, the appearance was more ogre-like. Now, the reason why this is important is, just like how I stated in the last video talking about why Kaguya betrayed Isshiki, and I kind of tied in the mythology. So when you look at the Isshin Boshi mythology, one of the things that you get is after defeating the ogre, that's when he gets the wish granting mallet. And when it comes to that mallet, that was what allowed him to essentially get to full size, because that's one of his wishes. He wanted to essentially make himself a fully sized human, that way he can basically run off and marry the princess. Now, when you look at that, that would explain why you saw the potential ability to use magic. And again, it ties into the original concept. We know that Masashi Kishimoto borrows very heavily on Asian folklore, and so when you start looking at that, that makes sense if we continue on that whole possibility that basically the inspiration behind the Otsutsuki is that they're a race of ogres, if you will. The way Ikimoto draws and the way Kodachi, it's a little bit different, and yet at the same time I could kind of see where that's kind of linking up on that. Now, the only thing on that is when you look at the ability when he's fighting against Kashi and Koji, it really looks as if we're seeing multiple abilities here. We're seeing the ability to shrink things. We're seeing the ability to essentially create things with using the wish granting ability. There are a lot of signs that the mythology is starting to literally be translated into the Boruto story. Like if we start getting into DC Comics, some of the most powerful characters are the ones that can dabble with magic. Not even Superman, for as broken as he is able to deal with some of these characters that are using advanced magic. That's one of Superman's weaknesses in a lot of the continuities in DC Comics. So the fact that we're getting this in Naruto, in particular in the Boruto era, this is very fascinating. This is very fascinating to me because it opens up a plethora of opportunity. Let me know how you guys feel about that in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching only to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.